have to now take responsibility for that dirty secret of data.
We need all of us to make this work.
What can we learn? What can we be coached with?
Without those, we cannot run the car, and they truly are part of making the car go faster.
Are wicked issues that none of us can do alone.
Welcome to The Sustainable Future, a part of the Futurist series presented by me, your host, Ian Khan. Did you know that by the year 2025, we will generate an astounding 175 zettabytes of data annually? Or that data centers already consume about 2% of the world's electricity, a figure projected to quadruple by the year 2030. Today, we dive into the dynamic world where sustainability meets data. How can the data we generate drive us towards a greener planet? From revolutionizing industries like the Formula One to transforming our everyday actions, data holds the key. Join me as we explore these fascinating connections and hear from industry leaders like NetApp, Aston Martin, Formula One, and leading critics and critical thinkers in the sustainability space to learn what the future looks like. Ready to jump in? Let's go.
Data is the world's dirty secret. I think most people don't realize just the volume of data that we create, and that data is all sat on physical technology inside data centers that is consuming vast amounts of electricity. When we think about sustainability and we think about emissions, we think about the physical things. You know, you can see a car, you can see an aircraft, but every time you pick up your phone and you send a text or you create a video, you are creating, albeit small, you are creating an amount of CO2 emissions.
Our relationship with data has evolved dramatically over the past 2 decades. In the early days of the internet revolution, we focused on systems of record, CRM systems, and ERP systems, generating relatively small amounts of data. But as virtualization and cloud computing emerged, the quantity and types of data exploded.
So if we think about the quantity of data that we create in the world right now, by 2025, it's estimated we'll create 175 zettabytes of data. That puts us on track to hit what I call the yottabyte problem by 2030. 1 trillion terabytes is the equivalent of every single human being on the planet carrying 500 iPhones. That is the volume of data that we're going to be creating as we project forward towards 2030, driven by sensors, by IoT, by AI, by a whole number of different events.
At a consumer level, each text message, video, and photo contributes to this growth. In the corporate world, sectors like aviation illustrate this surge. Did you know that a single transatlantic flight generates hundreds of gigabytes of data? Our cars, our homes, and our workplaces are all part of this data deluge.
Data is now suddenly something that is at the heart of businesses. It's gone from being something that we use to something that is fundamentally a product for many, many companies right now.
We cannot go back and rewind anything to say let's generate less amount of data. In fact, we're going to be generating more and more data. There's also the relationship between data and sustainability. The world is warming up. Corporate responsibility is also to look at how they can reduce their carbon footprint and all of that. So let's talk about that.
Now, where it gets really interesting is that the forecasts are that the data centers could be consuming up to 8% of the world's electricity as we look out towards 2030. And I've talked to people who say, well, surely it's not going to happen that quickly. Well, in Ireland, 18% of Ireland's entire electricity supply currently goes to the big cloud providers, the hyperscale providers. So what does that mean for data? Storage is about 20% of data center power consumption. So if we think in the future, 8% of the world's power going to data centers, 20 to 30% of that is storage. Here's the killer. 2/3 of the data we store is never ever used again after it's created. And if you play all of that math through, it means that by 2030, between 1% and 2% of the world's electricity, which is being created mostly by fossil fuel created sources, will be powering storage to store data that we never ever use.
Now let's dive into a critical conversation about the future of data and sustainability. NetApp, they help companies build intelligent data infrastructure, allowing them to securely store, protect, and manage their data, whether it's in their own data centers or across major cloud providers. As Matt Watts, Chief Technology Evangelist at NetApp, explains, data is the world's dirty secret. Most people don't realize the sheer volume of data we create and the environmental impact of storing this data in energy-consuming data centers. By the year 2030, storing unused data could account for 1% to 2% of the world's electricity, mostly generated from fossil fuels.
One of the challenges that we have with data is that people aren't measuring this at the moment. There is a lack of awareness. And every great thing starts with creating an awareness of it. There are people that will be watching this now that won't have been aware of just how much power is being consumed and therefore emissions created by our use and our storage of data. But data is also part of the solution. If we can identify and use data to help us understand, what are the systems that we're storing? What is the power that's being consumed? If we can help to extract that value from data, although it's still part of the problem, it also starts to become part of the solution for us.
We've talked about technology going much faster than many of us can keep up with. Cost of green energy in most places in the world is now cheaper than fossil. I am very optimistic about the fact that addressing these issues has become the biggest business opportunity of this century. It's actually cheaper to address these issues than dealing with the consequences of not addressing them.
From the things that NetApp as a company can help with, it starts off by understanding what is the power consumption and the wastage within your entire data center. Then look at your data. 68% of the data you store is never ever used again after it's created, but it's still consuming power. So start analyzing that data, start taking more responsibility for how you deal with it. Then look at using the cloud. And then finally, for what remains in your data center, make sure the technology you're using is the most sustainable technology that you can get.
Only companies that understand that they're in the business of not only addressing the issues, but doing it in a way that makes things better, will ultimately succeed in society. The ones that continue to deny it and stick their heads in the sand are heading to the graveyard of dinosaurs.
As we look forward to a sustainable future, companies must think ahead. NetApp leads the way with their innovative partnership with Aston Martin in Formula One, not just to enhance performance, but to achieve net zero emissions by the year 2030. Data is crucial in this endeavor, from the racetrack to data centers. Each race generates terabytes of data, and every kilogram of equipment transported affects CO2 emissions. Stay tuned as we explore how this groundbreaking collaboration is driving us towards a greener future.
Formula One is looking to achieve net zero by 2030. And that, for us, was something that we wanted to be part of. I am a huge Formula One fan, so I want to be part of how do we take something which everybody loves and go through this incredible challenge to take this sport that nobody would think about in regards to sustainability and put it on a path to becoming more sustainable. Technology is here in the factory. We're helping them to store, manage, protect, refine the data. We're helping to make sure that the equipment they take to the track, because there's a lot of technology that sits alongside the racetrack, how do we reduce the weights, the quantities of what gets taken? Because all of that is creating CO2 emissions.
High performance cars, a lot of R&D, and it's not just easy as you and I going to work in the morning, switching on our car and just going and driving away from our driveway. It's continuous improvement, continuous work. and a lot of logistics, planning, of course, the role of technology and all of that to make it work. Help us understand some of those dynamics as you see it from NetApp.
Our technology ships with the car. In fact, our technology is one of the only things that actually ships with the car at the same time. The car will not start without data. But of course, every kilogram that goes with that car, which is in many of the foreign races flown across, every kilogram is indirectly creating CO2 emissions. So for us, our big challenge is how do we optimize the power consumption from our technology? How do we drive down the amount of data that's needed to take with the car? How do we increase the efficiency of our physical systems to be able to store that data? And that's a constant challenge for us. How do we make that technology, the data that it's storing, as efficient as it can be, such that we're reducing the weight for some of the logistics?
Moore's law, which predicted back in the day that every once in a while technology will double its capacity. It was related to transistor capacity in microprocessors, but now it's quadrupling and expanding 100 times. So Moore's law has been broken a long, long time ago. And so I'm really excited to look at the future and say, we don't know, we can't predict where we'll go, but we are going pretty far with how technology can help us do something and achieve these goals.
Today, the largest solid-state drive that we ship is a 30 terabyte drive, which, for people watching this, that's about 60 times the capacity of your mobile phone in something about the same size. It's not actually a 30, it's a 30.6, but we don't mention the 0.6 because, it's a rounding error. But if I take you back about 6 or 7 years ago, the largest solid-state drive you could buy was about a 400 gig. That is smaller than the rounding error of the one that we ship today. That's the progress of technology in a relatively short space of time. There is a very, very simple reality right now that technology, from a storage perspective, is not keeping pace with Moore's law. The volumes of data that we're creating, a team like Aston Martin are creating terabytes of data at every single race. The data that comes from the high-performance compute environment that we have to share amongst the teams is vast. And it's causing us to have to use more and more and more and more storage. And a lot of this data is never used again after the end of one particular race or, at the end of a season. So it's a mind shift change. We have to now take responsibility for that dirty secret of data. We can't just put it off thinking that technology is somehow going to solve the problem on our behalf.
It's been so exciting to know about the role of data, sustainability, and all the different industries that really are creating a push towards that excellence and to move forward with net zero goals as well.
Well, I've got a little surprise for you, because most people wouldn't put sustainability and Formula One in the same sentence, but we do. And I'd like to welcome you to our customer and our partner, the Aston Martin Formula One team.
I love it.
Come on in.
Let's go. In this episode of The Sustainable Future, we explore the innovative partnership between NetApp and Aston Martin Formula One, highlighting the vital role of data and technology in sustainability. NetApp's collaboration with Aston Martin Formula One began with a shared vision to enhance performance and achieve net zero emissions by the year 2030. I'm excited to meet Claire Lansley, Chief Information Officer from Aston Martin Aramco, who will share how they are embedding sustainability into every aspect of their operations. Their new facility, the first purpose-built Formula One facility in over 20 years, is designed with sustainability in mind. Claire, we're super excited to be here. Tell us about this brand new campus for Aston Martin Aramco.
Certainly. So this facility is less than 12 months old. It's the first purpose-built Formula One facility in over 20 years. So we had the opportunity and foresight to really embed sustainability at the heart of the building. We have smart energy, we have smart insulation, we use our water, we have solar panels, which give some much-needed power back into the system and into our establishment. We are focusing on the fact that we can monitor their power consumption. The devices themselves do not require so much power.
You're doing this at a facility level. This is also happening in the cars themselves. It's happening across the entire chain of things that are connected within Aston Martin Formula One.
Absolutely. We have NetApp devices here at HQ. They will be embedded in our new wind tunnel facility, which is the latest building that's coming online. And we also have the devices at trackside as well. Without those, we cannot run the car. And they truly are part of making the car go faster.
So Claire, if I may ask, you're racing across the world, right? Literally, the cars are either in China or Bahrain or Saudi or one of the places where the races are happening. This is so exciting, and you get to work in this facility. You're going net zero, you're doing renewable power, like you're doing everything needed to achieve that net zero goal of 2030. How is it to work in that environment for you?
Really exciting. You can combine the passion of the sport and speed and performance with actually doing something for the environment. And that is a fantastic and really fulfilling combination. That's
an awful lot of logistics and an awful lot of things that have to go to the tracks. And one of those things, of course, is technology.
Indeed.
So what difference does it make in terms of efficiency from the logistics of being able to ship this equipment around? How does that affect things?
NetApp devices which go to track are effectively mini data centers. By way of that fact, we don't have to ship so many devices to track, which again is reducing our carbon footprint. Furthermore, the technology and its intelligent infrastructure can be managed remotely. So engineers can stay put here in the UK and still contribute to the race operations. Again, further reducing our carbon footprint. It's really important not only to the Aston Martin Formula One team, but to the F1 industry in its entirety. We have a quest of being carbon neutral by 2030, and NetApp is helping us realise that goal.
As we wrap up our look at Aston Martin Formula One and their impressive sustainability efforts, I'm excited to introduce Paul from NetApp. He brings new insights on AI, digital twins, technology, and leadership. As data explodes at a phenomenal rate, sustainability becomes key. Technology not only contributes to the challenge we face, but also offers solutions.
Sustainability is a key part of responsible data usage, because it's like everything else. If you just have mountains and mountains and you never clean up and you never throw it away and you never do anything with it, you know that all that data has to be cooled, supplied with power, managed. It's a risk vector. Sustainability has to be baked in to how you manage everything.
We've got net zero goals. We've got 2030 goals. There's lots happening within sustainability. How do you see this translating from a technology perspective? And you work within the technology group within the company.
So technology is responsible for some of the problems that we experience, but I think technology is also has the potential to be a solution. I look at the things that are being done with AI. AI is new, relatively new, and yet it is bursting forth with what it's capable of doing. Most of what it seems to be doing at the moment is helping us in terms of things like our health or education or productivity. The AI focus is turning onto how do we make a sustainable planet with technology? What can we learn? What can we be coached with? But all of that takes mountains and mountains of data.
What is the biggest problem in data management that AI can tackle fast? Is it organizing data? Is it figuring out what data to discard, what to keep? What are you guys looking at?
The more data you have, the more risk vectors, the more attack vectors that you have, the more you need to manage. Most IT budgets are not expanding in terms of people, so we need to have AI, smart, intelligent infrastructure that is able to manage it. So make sure it's in the right place, it's running on the correct tiers, it's protected properly. We need to make sure that our AI is helping us in all of this. Imagine if you can take something that a really expensive, complicated piece of engineering, and you can assign a digital twin to it, and you can train it to behave like the real thing.
Yeah.
And then you can say, what happens if I change this parameter? What happens if this environmental thing changes? What happens if I shave a little bit of weight off that?
Yeah.
And from this, you end up with really good engineering that is predictable, it's reliable, and it's going to help save on weight and fuel and all these sorts of things, because you're just making a better product.
Yeah.
But the key to all of that, of course, is mountains and mountains of data. Millions of parameters, thousands of parameters, millions of iterations of them, leading to exabytes or petabytes worth of data.
Oh, yeah.
That all needs to be stored, shared, protected, managed, all the things you need to do with data.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, and we were talking, you mentioned the 4 things that we need to do, and you're doing, and you're focusing on as a company in order to move forward, and it was the 4 Ps.
If you ask any CEO or any board what it is that they focus on, the pillars that their organizations are built on would be people. It's going to be built on technology, and it's to drive growth, right? We take that one step down. We say that everything to do with sustainability is about people, planet, and being able to be profitable. We're a commercial organization. We need to be profitable. We need to be able to invest money back into what it is that we do.
As we conclude this episode of The Sustainable Future, it's clear that sustainability is no longer just a buzzword. It's a movement driven by the next generation and informed by thoughtful leadership and effective legislation. Leadership today is about empathy, compassion, and a strong sense of purpose. Leaders who embrace these qualities inspire confidence and drive engagement, leading to better company results. They understand that true leadership is about serving others and thinking multi-generationally.
I live in the Netherlands, and there was a survey that was done recently of people going through Central Station. They asked those people coming through, would you take a decrease in your income potential to work for an organization that had the same ethical beliefs as you around environment, social governance, people. Of the 25 and younger, 40% of them said they would take a significant or very significant pay cut to work for an organization that met their ethical needs. That is absolutely massive. And it's this generation of people who are driving us to be more conscious.
Real leadership is understanding you, by putting yourself to the service of others, you're better off yourselves as well. And I think that leadership characteristics of putting yourself to the service of others, having a higher sense of purpose, embracing these broader partnerships, working and thinking multi-generational are the leadership skills that we need in today's society to succeed.
A CEO who has to be the first to step into the water of doing things sustainably that might be more expensive or might have a temporary impact on production, if he's the only one doing it, there will be resistance. But if you have legislation and everybody has to do it, then it becomes a race to see how well you can do it. And I believe we're at that stage now. Every single industry, as you say, even oil and gas, even the energy industries, which is historically one of the biggest polluters, even those industries are striving to how can we be better, how can we be better corporate citizens. It's a time of great hope.
We need all of us to make this work. Issues like climate change or inequality, biodiversity destruction, are wicked issues that none of us can do alone. We need governments to put the right laws in place and the right regulations to enforce these laws and regulations. We need civil society. Think about companies that instead of having carbon emissions in their value chain, run their businesses by actually taking carbon out of the air, making commitments to repair the health of our oceans, our land, and our forests. That is the regenerative, restorative, reparative thinking that we need in this world right now.